I understand that I'm competing against the Dalai Lama today. Multiple people told me that. So I'd redouble my appreciation. I certainly can't offer to add as much wisdom as the Dalai Lama would. In fact, I'm concerned because I figured, well, at least I'm speaking about social media, so let me see how the Dalai Lama stacks up in social media. So I went to his Facebook page, and he's got about 1,200 times as many friends as I do. So, now I'm not even sure what would he say if he was here. And I'm sure it'd be all about context and emphasizing the fact that Facebook is a tool and social media is a tool. What's the bigger deal? What are we really talking about? And as it turns out, that's the theme I want to talk about today. So we're going to dive into it at a professional, strategic level. What's this all about? Let's put it into context. Let's put a framework around this. The neat thing is I got to meet about a dozen of you before this even started, and everyone said, well, gosh, we're just revisiting our social media strategy. We're looking at social media compliance now. It's the hot topic, but it's still an extremely immature topic for the way we think. Our organizations are based on older ways of thinking. So here we are with social media. We've got these new tools, but we've not kind of caught up with these tools yet. So what do? People kind of typing away on typewriters. And that's the way it was back then. Okay? So a very conservative kind of approach to journalism. And this fit the Tayloristic mode of organizations very well. A PR agency, a PR department within an organization had time to deal with the prospective media, prospective announcements, or whatever else. And then it was all very predictable and very doable. So how could that possibly change? Well, a lot of things caused it to change. What's news? And I didn't even throw Jon Stewart up here, by the way, between these other two slides. We've done that before. Defining what news is now has gotten awfully cloudy. There's arguments that you get more journalism in Comedy Central sometimes than you do on some of the news networks. So now this idea of managing the brand and making it authentic by the individual, well, now we've just rocked everything since Walter Cronkite. We've got organizations that are more or less Tayloristic and used to this idea of very carefully thinking through PR strategies, and yet the speed doesn't really allow us to do that. We've got to have thought of it ahead of time. And, well, okay, I know that transparency is a competitive advantage, but where do we even begin? And that's where most of us are now, is we know these Facebook tools are out there. We know that proper use is probably a competitive advantage, and LinkedIn and YouTube and so on. But where do we even start? How do we even get our arms around this stuff? 2/3 of all journalists search Facebook when they're screening their sources for stories. 2/3. And if you have a presence versus not, all things being equal, the journalists will take the one that they feel like they're comfortable with, which is going to be the one with the Facebook presence. And finally, the interaction. And this is more for organizations and individuals because of the time. But the ability to work with that community and go back and forth and get information about your market and broadcast out subtly in a non-obnoxious way what your thoughts are about things is a substantial competitive advantage.